What's good, everybody? This is Wash Gamer here, coming back at you. And before I jump in the video, I just want to give a big shout out to everybody who has been checking out the channel, giving feedback, even the stuff that isn't so good. Believe me, anything that you're going to tell me, I've probably thought of it at some point myself. And, none of it's a real surprise, but it is still good to see the engagement. So thank you. I appreciate all of it. And let's just go ahead and jump right in. This is going to be the 10 Super Nintendo games that I played the most when they were out in the 90s. So mind you, this isn't going to be a list of the 10 best games I ever played on the console. So you're not going to see games like Super Castlevania 4. There's going to be no Zelda Link to the Past. There's no Chrono Trigger. There's going to be a lot of indelible games that aren't on the list for the simple fact that I wasn't playing them back then. That's kind of the cool thing about this endeavor, is that you get into newer stuff as you start getting older and backtracking your way across, different retro eras and having a good time with it. So enough of me talking about that. Let's go ahead and jump right in, and starting off with number 10. So the first game is Top Gear 2. It was the sequel to, obviously, Top Gear, and similar in a lot of ways, but the really cool thing about it was that it ramped up the difficulty without making it feel as though you were being punished for it. So all of the same elements are in play. It's got the same sort of forgiving turning, nice acceleration, and you got to use nitros. But you jump in and right away, if you get behind, unlike the first game, which had a big time rubber band system to let you sort of stay competitive and oftentimes catch up in races, you're not getting first. You cannot have more than like one accident or two. And that actually made it really fun to play. And it was also happened to be a game that my best friend Brandon owned. So he got it, I'm playing it. Number 9 is Super Bowling. Now, this game was never owned by anybody I knew, but one of the most important people you're going to have at the time absolutely loved it, and that was my mama. Mind your business. So we used to be able to, we would rent the Super Nintendo console before I actually had it bought for me for Christmas, and this would be one of the games that she would sort of demand be sort of rented with the combo so that we could actually play it together. And the cool part about it was it also brought my two sisters into the fold as well, so we would actually be able to do something as an entire family. The game itself was just a blast to play, very easy learning curve, although it was hard to master. But when I think about it, more than anything, I think about the unity of family, and that's what makes this awesome to think about. Number 8 is Bill Walsh's College Football. Now, the thing about this game is that, admittedly, owning a Genesis and preferring it during the 90s, as a sports gamer, almost all of the games that I played were on the Genesis as far as sports games go. This was an exception because, once again, it came with a rental that I got with one of my best friends, and we just jumped into it, and it sort of blew my mind at the time how fun this game was. Even though it was sort of a Madden derivative, we were up all night basically as a co-op going through the season mode with Florida State, which is known as Tallahassee on here because they didn't have their license. Didn't matter. Charlie Ward was a beast. It was a very fun game, and it was definitely something that I spent a lot of Saturday nights playing. Number 7 is Super Smash TV, the video game version of the Running Man. This one is absolutely better in co-op mode. You gotta have a second person because it seems like they jump you with the same volume of characters no matter if you're playing solo or you're actually running it with 2 players. This game always kept my interest. It was like we couldn't get to the end of it without the code that you had to sort of remember. Obviously one of the forgotten ones. It's not a Konami code, but it was still huge to know that one, to soup up your continues and the number of lives you got to start with each time. And even then, it wasn't a guarantee we'd get to the end. But man, what a blast playing this one. Bosses were awesome. It felt like it was insane at times, but still fair, and always a blast to sort of pop on and play. Number 6 is the OG Super Mario Kart. 2 words, battle mode. I lost a friend or two in battle mode in the original version. Although most of the time I was 50cc in it as a solo player. This was the game that set the standard. It doesn't have the same features that modern ones have, but back in 1991, 92, man, you couldn't tell any of us nothing. This was a game that sort of blew your mind to be able to take characters from the Mario universe and have this cool racing element that felt at the time like something different and yet still very easy to pick up and play. It was easy to understand, how the power-up system worked and all of that other stuff. And it was just one of those things that it was just fun the second that you played it, which is all you can ask for with a game like this. Okay, the first game in the top 5 is Donkey Kong Country. Well, this is one of the best Super Nintendo games of all time. And, I don't have to say it. This game was absolutely revolutionary when it dropped. We had never seen anything that looked like that on a home console. And the fun that you had in sort of using Donkey and Diddy Kong together, the level designs, the absolute beauty of the way that the game was, and then of course the iconic theme music like Aquatic Ambiance. It just made for an experience that, all these years later, I still don't know if I've gotten it exactly like that. One of the most fun, one of the most, easy to sort of know where you were when you first played it kind of games, and it absolutely holds up still to this day. Number 4 is Super Punch-Out. And this one was awesome for me because it was like a best of both worlds. I had played the Punch-Out and Super Punch-Out games at the arcade as a kid. So the fact that it sort of returned more to that look without sort of the graph, feature for the player one, and blending in characters from both games, the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and then also the arcade, was a really, really nice twist. So being able to see guys like Bear Hugger and Dragon Chan refamiliarized, and then you've also got, your players from the original or from the NES version, was a nice little balance to be able to sort of have all of those converge on you at the time. And it was also another one of those situations where it was having to learn the combinations and the patterns again to be able to advance as far as you are. And unfortunately, I still have never beaten Hoy Carlo. So one of these days, just not today. Number 3 is Tecmo Super Bowl. If you have been on my page at all, it is no secret how much I adore this series. I think it's the greatest sports game of all time, the NES version, and I absolutely spent my fair share on this game. It's just like I said, with having a Super Nintendo and a Genesis, this one felt more of a derivative, although this was a better version compared to the Genesis version, in my opinion. But yeah, it was the same story. It was just being blown away by the upgrade and the sort of graphical look. But then the gameplay is just so easy to sort of adapt to. And I was always looking for teams that had guys that could make interceptions, like in this case, Audrey McMillan for the Minnesota Vikings, or also Henry Jones for the Buffalo Bills. Shout out my 90s guys who know those two players. They had the highest interception rating, so I used to gravitate to those teams even though I was a Raider fan. So always a good time, the GOAT. Of my cousin Joey having a Super Nintendo at the time and spending the entire summer over with my uncle and having this to play. So I wore this game out, and for all of the great features, adding the 4 characters, Fei Long, DJ, Cammy, and T-Hawk, it didn't matter because I was going to be Ken and no one can see me as Ken. So it was just as simple as the thing that I loved was all the various color schemes that you got to use. And then just sort of the tweaks that they made to sort of the graphics to where you could see that there was an upgrade and there was a slight but definite sort of change, and it made it just all the much more fun to go play again. And just going through this again as Ken it's just as cool as it was when I was 15. So always a great time, any of the Street Fighter 2 games. And number 1, not much of a surprise, the pack-in game, probably the best game that ever was made for the system, Super Mario World. There really isn't much for me to sort of delve into. If you had a Super Nintendo, you played this. If you knew someone that had a Super Nintendo, you played this. It is such a indelible moment in time in the early 1990s, this game. It just crossed over, and just the way that it expanded on the Mario universe, and it made it so much more non-linear, where you could work backwards and forwards in a way that was a little bit different than Mario 3, and that you could actually sort of retrace your steps and regather items and do all the different things, and all the extra secrets and all of the different bells and whistles that just added up to one of the greatest experiences of all time on a console. It is number one with a bullet, and I don't know if that's ever going to change for me. So there you have it. Those are the 10 games that I played the most in the early to mid 90s on the Super Nintendo. Jump in here, tell me the games that you guys were playing back in the day, or even once you started playing Super Nintendo. Please, as always, give it a like if you like the video. Please subscribe. I appreciate the big jump we've had in subscriptions, and hopefully you want to keep this content going. But yeah, once again, thank you to everybody who's been giving the channel some love. I really hope you like it, and like I said, let me know what you're thinking. Wash Gamer is out of here.